to effect these refurbishments at these houses. And we are now ready to roll out that. At the moment, what the service provider has been doing was attending to day-to-day, requests as they come from members. In rolling out the refurbishment, the refurbishment of this portfolio, we have agreed with the internal arrangements, the chairperson of the internal arrangements, that there is a house number 44 McJanet in East London, which is currently vacant. The plan is to refurbish that house first, and maybe a member moves to that house, maybe in King would move to that house, so that we've got a vacancy in King Williamstown, so that we can refurbish that house which has been vacated in King Williamstown to create decanting space, because when we refurbish these houses, because it's major refurbishment, it would require that the member vacates the house. So there is that plan which we will be presenting. I've also attached the plan and also the outcomes. There is an annexure which I'm sure has been submitted to the honorable members, indicating also what we are planning to do before we commence with these refurbishments. They will be presented to each member, for each member to sign off and maybe indicate if there's anything that they feel or think that we have omitted in the exercise for sign off, so that we do this as a collective. But also, I think Mr. Saki, when he presents, he will be talking to the usage of your EPWP, for grass cutting, for grass cutting. But also we are already working on the documents whereby we have received the norms and standards for office furniture from the National Department of Public Works. We will be going out on tender for that. It's an all-in-one tender where you're curtaining your interior decor design and everything, and also the provision of the furniture. So we'll be going out on tender very soon. There is an allocation of 30 million, but it's not only for Prestige, it's also for the other facilities like the offices. But the bigger chunk of this 30 million will go towards the refurbishment of the Prestige portfolio. Also, we are looking at putting term contracts, for your specialized work, like your electrical and all that. But also, we are, in terms of the new strategy that we are going to be implementing as a department, in terms of also building our own internal capacity, we are going to be using our own artisans and what do you call it? We are going to put them to work with these service providers, for a lack of a better word, just to work with these service providers so that they gain experience, so that when these service providers move off-site, our own teams will be ready and prepared, and trained, accordingly. Now, next slide. With our budget, the total budget for Program 2, that is your immovable asset management and buildings, is 1.9 billion. And of that, 539 is for the provinces and municipalities, that is your rates account. And also another cost driver is your payment of leases, and as well as your securities. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Penga. Who is next, Mr. Manda? That is the building part.
Mr. Mtuba, Chairperson.
Mr. Mtuba, over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I am Malkhanye Mtuba. I'll be leading in the buildings infrastructure space. Honorable Chair and honorable members, I will not take you through the presentation outline. It's similar to what Mrs. Penga has presented. The only items that are different there will be the update on the COVID projects. Can I move to the next slide, please?
Mr. Mtuba,
There
are no slides. Mr. Mtuba, there are no slides in my screen. Oh, there it comes. You can proceed. Sorry for that.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The structure of the program is similar to the one presented earlier, so I will not bore you with the details. Mr. Mbe. All right. Coming to the APP performance information, Honorable Chair, we have two outcomes as buildings infrastructure. The first outcome being the transformed and inclusive property and construction industry, which has got two outcome indicators, which seek to improve the local economic development of our businesses. In total, the two outcomes add up to 40%, where our main target is to make sure that we improve the position of local businesses, especially those of the SMMEs, for all the projects that will be rolling out in the infrastructure space. In terms of capital project, we have a percentage of infrastructure expenditure on capital projects that targets the local suppliers, the local manufacturers and contractors. Those are your SMMEs. The target for this financial year is 35%, and then for ICDP, which is a department development program, we have an APP target of 5%, though looking at the recent developments, that target will be surpassed in terms of the speed of operations. As the target was done, we did the ICDP database. Now we do, and we're likely to surpass that target. Then the second outcome, Honorable Chair, is the dignified client experience, which has got 8 outcome indicators. The percentage of energy efficient state-owned building. That particular indicator seeks to make sure that the government facilities are habitable facilities, safe for the users, and we try to make sure that there's conducive environments within our buildings, which will then address the health and safety concerns of the users. We are trying to come up with new technologies that will help us achieve that. In the previous financial year, we conducted an audit on the facilities, and now we have identified certain buildings in our projects that we want to do the retrofitting, and on others it will be new projects. So we want to make sure that the green building principles are observed. Also in line with trying to make sure that our facilities are of a safe condition, we are conducting conditional assessments to the state-owned buildings. Last year we did, I think we did about 300 buildings that we assessed. This financial year, we are saying we will be doing 150. But what we are now planning to do after the conditional assessments are done, Chair, is that we want to make sure that the 450 that would have been assessed, we want to start implementing changes on those, because it doesn't help to just do conditional assessments and do nothing in return to try and make sure that the conditions of the facilities are improved. That is coupled with the adherence to building norms and standards, where we are saying every citizen or every human being must have easy access to the facilities of government. And we also looking at providing access for people living with disabilities in the form of your ramps, in the form of lifts that will guide the different forms of disabilities. Like most of our lists are having voice notes and the brailles as well that will tell you which floor you are. And then coming to the projects now for the financial year, we are saying we will be advertising 10 projects. That was the plan. Projects that will be designed and ready for tender. And it's 10 projects. I think as I present, Honorable Chair, we have listed those projects for ease of accountability during the course of the financial year. Can I move to the next slide? We are also planning to, currently we have 47 projects that are under construction. Those are projects that are on site as we speak. The bigger number of the projects is your education projects and some from other client departments. It's 47 in total. And out of those, we are planning to finish 11 of those capital projects. This is a revised target, Chair, due to the time that we've lost as a result of the pandemic. We are also planning to finish to award 6 maintenance projects from our budget as Public Works, because the one above encompasses all client departments that we are doing infrastructure for. And out of the 6, we are planning to complete 4 projects, Honorable Chair. That is our APP performance for this financial year. Can I move to the next slide, Mr. Mbengu? In terms of the infrastructure plans, which is similar to what I just presented, honorable members, this is what our Honorable MEC presented in the policy speech, where we have about 252 million rands that has been allocated solely to Public Works on infrastructure projects. And a total of 123 is for our maintenance projects, the major ones. The Bodasgao building, which has been a problem in the recent past. We are trying to upgrade that so that the users of that facility are finding conditions conducive for work. And also, we are also refurbishing the current office of the Premier, which was unfortunately banned a couple of years back. And as alluded by Mrs. Penga in her presentation, we have a total sum of 30 million that has been set aside for the maintenance of prestige portfolio and day-to-day maintenance of state houses. The Honorable MEC in his policy speech made mention of the district development model, and we've set aside an amount of 97 million for the implementation of cluster offices. He specifically mentioned the construction of Mount Elif cluster offices, which is we've set aside 49 million rands, as well as the new ADO offices at Sarah Baartman region in an effort to try and set up a new district. So we will be focusing on that with all our efforts. And then that covers, that adds up to the 252 million rands allocation that we have had. And there's also projects that we will be completing shortly, Honorable Chair, projects that were on the verge of completion prior to the 31st of March. We are going to be addressing that. Actually, contractors are back on site. Those projects seek to ease the pressure of on office accommodation. So we're trying to rush on those so that we at least address that. May I move to the next slide, Mr. Mbengu? As I have alluded, Chair, on our plans, our APP targets, this is just a list of projects that we are planning to, that are ready for tender. I have stated the quotas that we are planning to advertise the projects. It's just those. I don't think I would like to bore you with the information. May we move to the next slide? These ones are projects that we are planning to award in this financial year. If I can take you to the last one, Chair, the training center and workshop for in-house construction unit at Makhanda. It is the department in an effort to make sure that public works is self-sustainable, and we try and increase our capacitation of our officials. We want to set up a workshop in the Makhanda area, in Grahamstown. According to our plans, we're supposed to have already started going out to tender in them, but we are still trying to get facilities, and the plan is now to look for the closed facilities, the closed schools, I mean, that Mrs. Spengler spoke about, and we would like to turn those into working, into workshops. So that's one of the projects that we don't want to default on implementing this financial year. May I move to the next slide? This is just a list of those projects that we are planning to complete in this financial year. I'm sure the members will notice that all these projects are already above 60% in terms of their completion status, and we will be very soon providing offices. I'm sure the one that people will note the most is the Ungwa, and next to our department here, which accommodates economic development, and also in the Alfred region, where we have seen revamped the ex-Mary Teresa Hospital, which was banned about 6 years ago. It is now ready for occupation. We're just finalizing a few snacks, and very soon we will be moving government officials there. The same goes for Komani Hospital, which I think some of the honorable members visited, and it's now we will be handing that one over for occupation. Mr. Mbengo? All right. In terms of the capital projects, honorable members, you will realize that it's various client departments, and the one that contributes the most being social development, and even here the projects are already at advanced stages. I think public works as a department is only accountable for the Alwal North offices, and the rest will be a social development and a few traditional councils with certain schools. Maybe I need to mention that on the schools projects, we are likely to achieve more if the issue of financial constraints can be addressed. There's lots of advantages there, but I think experience has told us that we don't want to risk and commit on education projects. But even this afternoon, we had a meeting where we're trying to address the challenges that continue to confront them. So these are just the projects that we will be completing this financial year. As I said, it is a revised. May I move to the next slide? All right. Now, honorable members, I would like to take you to the projects on COVID-19. These projects were not planned for initially, and they have brought about a change to the Department of Health plans. And as Public Works, we from the very word go, we were involved in implementation of these projects through refurbishments and upgrading of facilities, some which had already been abandoned. To date, we have made 37 awards that add up to 196 million for health facilities. And of the 37, we have managed to complete 17 projects. And we are left with 20 projects that are currently running now. Can you move, Mr. Mbengu? We left the projects that have that we are doing. What I did, I just gave you the number of projects per region, and the total amount is that 192, so that if there's a need for any visits, we can be able to dish them out per region. And I must say that we have now completed 17 because I believe that MEC with his infrastructure background has put enough pressure to make sure that the facilities are visited on a basis, and the system that has been put up by the HOD to make sure that the reports come in thick and fast weekly. So because there is no room to make any mistake when it comes to trying and address the current the pandemic that we are facing. So we have completed the 17, and it is stipulated in the regions, the OR Tambo being the one that has got most achievements currently, and Amatole. Next slide, Mr. Mbengu. This is just but the list of the projects I've spoken about, the ones that have been completed, honorable members. I just felt people need to have an insight on the projects, and if there are any questions, we can engage on those. Again, next slide, sir. Next slide, please. All right. Now we are having 20 projects that are still under construction of the 37, and we just reflected which regions they are, and also the quantity of beds that they will offer. And I've also stated the projects by name for ease of reference for the honorable members. Can you move, sir? All right. I have mentioned there's 37, but the Department of Health has once more given us 25 more projects that they want to have refurbished, honorable members. And these projects are also categorized per region. And we are now, the procurement processes are underway. The projects will soon be awarded. I think starting from next week, we will be having new awards, which means the implementation of projects in response to COVID is something that is going to continue what we had anticipated. Other than ones, there's also a total which we have received also from the Department of Health for implementation again. May I move to the next slide, sir? Mr. Mbengu? All right. These are just the names of the projects that are that will be, and we for tracking purposes, we have said, as I already alluded to, that from next week we'll be handing over projects. So the start dates are there. In the main, it's June. The following week, a week after next, we will be hitting the ground, and most of the projects will complete by end of August, the latest. And you will notice that on some projects, honorable members, there are projects that we have identified for the alternative building technology, which is the APT. For instance, in the current slide in Aberdeen Hospital, what we are trying to do, honorable members, is we're trying to move from the method is your brick and mortar, move to methods that will be time efficient when it comes to time, also using material that will not be harmful to mankind. So we're just identifying a few projects because we're still testing whether the method will work. And one other reason is that in the province, we do not have many service providers or contractors, so to speak, that specialized in the APT. So we would not like to take our money and give it to companies that are coming from outside at the expense of our provincial economy. So we are testing this with the hope that when these projects take place, there is going to be skills transfer on our local people, and in the near future, we would like to have companies that will be specializing in alternative building technology. Of course, not compromising the employment of the local communities and so forth. Now there is also a plan to build field hospitals. There's about 8 that have been identified, 1 each district. The specification is that each field hospitals need to have 200 PUIs. Beds or accommodation for PUIs. I'm sorry for the PIU. The PUIs are the people that are under investigation, persons under investigation. We want to have that, and also 200 accommodation facilities for isolation, for high care centers. The field hospitals will be in the main done using the APT. I'm sure we have seen in other areas, even around the world, how they do the field hospitals, but we want to make sure that we take the model further to be a hospital environment that involves having your clinical technology, so that you have a hospital within in the form of the field hospital, unlike where you put up your tents and everything, which may not be conducive in terms of responding to the adverse weather conditions. So we're planning to start the program in June, and in July, and complete that by October, so that we can have more facilities that will be able to attend to the people that are affected. This is just a list of the hospitals as we have regionalized them. May I move to the next slide, sir? All right. Now I've been talking about the COVID implementation of projects. Now, as a department, we have since decided to come up with a plan of addressing how the industry now needs to perform, taking into cognizance that this pandemic or the disease is likely to form part of our lives, especially on sites. We have put in place the administrative control measures. There's also social distancing measures and the screening of the colleagues. It has just been categorized into 3 categories. Administratively, the contact on site, these are the areas that they need to focus on. But most importantly, honorable members, is that as a department, we have taken a collective decision to say, in rolling out these measures, we are going to be making use of the services of the Youth Brigade program, which is under the auspices of the EPWP, where we want to take your unemployed youth to do these, because these are just at least easy wins for us to address the issue of unemployment, and there's an opportunity for these people to be induced or schooled in the building in the built environment, in the building industry, and this is a chance for us to create permanent employment, because contractors will now have a chance to train their own health and safety people from the youth. And this is just one of the ways where we want to be the department that leads in employment of youth through the EPWP program. I've just mentioned the 3 categories that will be involved. Now, coming to the special initiatives for the program, they are not far away from what my colleague from facilities management presented. We first of all want to focus on reviewing the infrastructure policies, especially the Eastern Cape Infrastructure Plan, which is what we currently are using to roll out our infrastructure as our policy document. We want to make sure that it is in line with the recent developments, especially on the health and safety under the construction regulations of 2014, as well as the Infrastructure Development Act of 2014. We want to be an industry that is consistent with the constitution of the country, in that we have to create safe environment. We also need to make sure that everyone's dignity is preserved in the industry. Then on the COVID approach, I think I've touched on that, in that we are now moving away, though not completely, from your conventional method of construction. We have also, through this COVID projects that we are doing, have started the 10-key approach of a model of construction, and we're also saying we'll be using the ABT construction methods. So this is just one of the initiatives that we want to take further as we embark on the infrastructure space. Also, honorable members, the district development model, which the MEC mentioned, we want to start these flagship projects so that we can be in line with what the president also pronounced on, and we want to respond to the accommodation of our government officials, and also make sure that we reduce the amount of money that we spend on rentals, and we need to have our own buildings. Then on the green infrastructure, also we now want to implement and make sure that we strengthen the internal conditions of the facilities. We reduce the sicknesses that that come with the facilities that are not conducive for human health, and we continually are in touch with other provinces through the green building conferences, where we set standards and what needs to be, what a building, a green facility needs to have, so that it responds to the humankind. And initially, these facilities may be expensive to put up, but the returns, the benefits that you enjoy after some time are nothing compared with the initial costs. Next slide, please. Oh, this is just but the budget allocation, which was already mentioned, that for buildings and for buildings infrastructure and immovable asset, we have about 109 billion rands that is for us, and that takes us to the end of the presentation, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtuba, for the presentation. Next program, that is program 3.
Mr. Saki, Chairperson.
Okay. Mr. Saki, over to you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Good afternoon to the MEC and my colleagues. Honorable Chair, the presentation outline is similar to that of my colleague, but I will just begin with the overview of our performance as and when we're implementing EPWP Phase 3. In 2014, the president, when he launched the EPWP Phase 3, he made a commitment to create 6 million work opportunities. Now, as the Eastern Cape were expected to contribute just above 500,000 work opportunities, but towards this target, we just fell short with 21,000 work opportunities. We had really made strides and attempts to achieve our set target, but we just fell short of 21,000. Now, as we started with phase 4 last year, we're given another target of 5 million work opportunities throughout the country. And as a province, we're given a target of 478,000 work opportunities. For this financial year, we've been given a target of 93,000 work opportunities. And as we have started, we have shown our intention not to falter in terms of our targets during the implementation of phase 4. Last year, we overachieved and achieved 186 work opportunities against a target of 91,000. We furthermore achieved 74,700 full-time equivalents against a target of 39,200. Now, this is a demonstration that as we start EPWP Phase 4, as a province and as a department that is coordinating the implementation of EPWP, we are committed to lead the country as well as to ensure that the unemployed people in the province are exposed to as many opportunities as possible. Now, in terms of our APP commitments and targets, this financial year, we will be engaging 160 emerging contractors in our ICDP incubator program. This is our integrated contractor development program where we have taken contractors between grades 1 to 6, and we're going to incubate them by exposing them to work opportunities in the built environment space, as well as to ensure that we assist them with training so that they develop into better business people that can compete not only in the province, but throughout the country. The second one is that we, as a department, have taken a bold decision to say that we have, over the past years, been focusing on the built environment space and less on the property management space. So we've taken a bold decision that will also be launching the property incubator program. In this program, we seek to engage 50 enterprises, with their majority being made of youth, to ensure that they're exposed to the opportunities that are found in the property management space. We've also been guided, as guided by Cabinet, been given a responsibility that we coordinate SMME development within the infrastructure and construction space in the province, and we've been given a task of developing a province-wide strategy. So we are planning to achieve that this financial year, to have that strategy in place. We're also planning that within the ICDP incubator program that we've established, that 10 of our participants will be upgraded to the next grades. those that would have gotten in at grade 1, we're aiming that they must be at the next grade. Now, in terms of the number of APTCOD learners that were training as part of our artisan development program, the target that we have set this year is that we will be training 1,000 young people to become fully fledged artisans. This is a 3-year program, and our target has increased because the target was last year 930, and we had already achieved 1,088. But we have set our target this year at 1,000. This is also taking into account the problems that we are faced with resulting from the pandemic of COVID. And those that we are aiming to have passed their trade tests and are fully fledged, they are 20. And you'll observe here that it's a reduction from last year's target, which was 100. This is basically because the institution that we're utilizing for the testing of our artisans, of our trainee artisans, has, starting from this year, introduced new ways and new measures to test trainee artisans. This arose from an investigation that was conducted, which showed that there were some artisans that were being given certificates, whereas they were not really ready to be thrown into the job market. So the process has now become very strenuous, and this year is the first year that we will be exposed together with our trainee artisans to that process. So we have reduced our targets so that as and when we familiarize ourselves, because it's a 3-stage process now, no longer a 1-stage process, so that we are able to meet our targets and not set targets that will not necessarily be able to achieve. And this is basically more so because we are not in control, obviously, at the testing center of the processes that they put in place there. This year, we've also planned to engage in our National Youth Service Program 150 participants. 75% of these learners will also be trained within our built environment and property management space, while 75% will be within the admin space. We've got a number of beneficiary empowerment interventions that we implement as a department, and the target this year is that we'll implement 4 of those beneficiary empowerment interventions. We have planned that this year we'll be creating as a department 2,960 work opportunities. These are work opportunities that arise from our APTCOD, which is our Artisan Development Program, NYS, the EPWP maintenance program, the security projects that we are implementing, as well as the other infrastructure build projects that we are implementing. We also plan on supporting 50 public bodies within the province, which is your municipalities, as well as other implementing agents of EPWP. In terms of our special initiatives, this year we had taken a decision that we needed to redevelop our Amathuba Jobs portal. This portal was first launched in 2011, and the aim was to assist the semi-skilled, unskilled, and skilled work seekers in the province to be matched with opportunities, and that also employers in the province would find the employees that they are looking for within this portal. But we've done an assessment and we found that there were areas of weakness within the system that made it less efficient. We've therefore embarked on a process to redevelop the portal to enable now us to reach the length and breadth of the province. Because what was happening now is that for people to be able to register on the portal, they had to visit one of our hubs. And throughout the province, we had only 4 hubs. One was in Ugi, one was in Somerset East, one in Duncan Village, and one in Umtata. But now how we have redeveloped the portal is such that anyone who's gotten access to a smartphone may be able to register on our database of unemployed people at the comfort of their own homes. Those that do not have access to smartphones are still welcome to go into our hubs, and we plan on opening up more hubs within our regional offices. We have also, as Ms. Pengla had indicated as well, that we will also be having the property incubator program. I had spoken to it when I was speaking about our APP targets. In terms of the EPWP interventions, we had been conducting a study that is on its final stages now. The study was to basically look at the participation of young people within the EPWP programs that we're implementing. There were indications that there seems to be a lack of appetite from young people to participate in our programs, especially those that are linked to non-certified training. You know, you'd find that there are more of them in APTCOD because at the end of it, you have a certificate that you can go and be a job seeker with, even in the private sector. But those opportunities that do not give at the end, you know, certificates, we had seen indications that young people were really not interested in partaking in them. So we had engaged a service provider to do an independent study, because as and when that study is concluded, we would want that study and the information and the contents thereof to have integrity, because it's coming from an independent person, so that we're able to look within our own systems, our own weaknesses, but also if there are policy issues that are inhibiting our ability to progress within EPWP, we're able to raise those issues without any fear of contradiction. The second review that we'll be embarking on now is on our own programs, because in terms of our own artisan training and NYS programs, we have been producing artisans. We have been producing artisans and reaching our targets of training in terms of the numbers. But we want now not to focus only on quantity, but the quality of those artisans that we produce. So what we'll be doing this year, with the help of our in-house team led by the Strategic Management Unit, Monitoring and Evaluation, as well as Internal Audit, we'll be embarking on an exercise to check whether the artisans that we produce, the NYS learners that we train, are really, after having been certified, of the quality that is required by the external market. Now, this is linked to the call and the determination that was articulated by the HOD, that as we move forward, we want to focus on creating decent and sustainable job opportunities. And therefore, that is why we need to do a review of these programs that we're implementing. Lastly, for instance, on APTCOD, we've been producing carpenters, but we have not produced carpenters that have got areas of speciality. So as we move forward, we'll take them. Others may specialize in roof making, others may specialize in joinery, others may specialize in shop fitting. And now these are areas which we think would make these artisans to be attractive to the external markets. We also this year are planning on conceptualizing and launching Operation Kusela program for safeguarding of movable assets. Ms. Pengla had spoken about Operation Bring Back, which seeks to investigate those assets that might have been stolen from the state. She had also alluded to the fact that we have engaged services of the state attorney, who is assisting us now with the eviction of those that have illegally occupied our properties and the eviction of those that have illegally invaded our vacant land parcels. We are now saying together with that will arise a responsibility of us safeguarding and maintaining those particular assets. We're saying in that space, we also want to have conceptualized this program that will be targeting young people to be at the forefront of safeguarding and maintaining these state assets that would have been able to reclaim to be in the custody of the state. In response to the COVID pandemic, we are planning on launching the COVID-19 Youth Brigades. This is in response to the regulations that have been issued by the Minister of Employment and Labor, which has given greater responsibility to us as a department, as a custodian of office accommodation, to ensure that this office accommodation that we give to our clients is conducive for working. So we'll be engaging unemployed graduates and unemployed young people to be at the forefront, to do the screening, to do the recording, some of them to also do the cleaning and the fogging of these facilities. We are quite clear in our minds that the engagement of the private sector in the defogging of state-owned facilities is not sustainable, considering the amounts of money that are involved. So we are saying that we'll engage young people that will be involved in a variety of the responsibilities that have arisen from the regulations of the Department of Labor and Employment. And those young people will be at the forefront of the fight for COVID. The greatest risk that we're faced with now is, now that the president has opened the economy, is to keep government functioning. And therefore, what that means is that as and when people are found to have been infected by COVID-19 and buildings are closed, we must, as a department, have the capability to move swiftly and defog and decontaminate those buildings, such that at most buildings will be closed for 24 hours, and that on the third day, work commences and that government continues to function. Now, Chair, this is the budget that has been allocated to our program. As you would see, as and when we closed the financial year last year, our budget was 119 million, but this year we've seen a reduction, and our budget is 118 million. But within this budget, we are committed to spend the budget, and we are committed to ensure that there is value for money and that we do not falter in our responsibility of poverty alleviation and creating work opportunities for our people, especially the youth. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Saki. Thank you for the presentation. Honorable members, that is the presentation from the department for program 1, 2, and 3. Injalo. Can we then interact or engage the honorable members with the presentation? Ms. Penga, are you done with the presentation? Ms. Penga?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are you done
Yes,
with the
Chairperson.
presentation? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
Chairperson.
Okay then. All right. Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members.
Skhona.
Okay. No,
Good,
it's
sir.
fine. Yes, Vicky?
I have questions, Chairperson.
Okay. That's number 1. Is there anyone, honorable members?
Konza Tusla.
Okay, number 2. Third one, honorable members? Okay. Over to you.
Omasat.
Okay. So you are the third one, Lamin. Yes, Honorable Vicky.
Thank you, Chairperson. I only have questions on program 1 and 2, and I'm going to start with program 1. There on slide 5, I just want to know what is the department doing to reduce negative media reports? And does this include social media? Number two, how often do you check if employees are doing business with government? Because you could check at one stage and then it could later transpire that that person is now doing business with government when they weren't before. The third one is about the organogram. In terms of the approval, is there now a finalized and approved organogram? And lastly, on program one, how much money in terms of rights and taxes is outstanding to municipalities from the department that is older than 30 days? Okay, and then on program two, how many properties have you disposed of in Nelson Mandela Bay? And what was the market value and what was the value that it was disposed of? The second question, where is the land that was released for spatial transformation and social justice? That 11,500 hectares, where was that? And then in terms of the 25 properties released for spatial transformation, also where was that? And then the 40% of properties to black landlords. That 40%, how many properties does that relate to, and what is the value of those properties in terms of the market value? My second last question, the vesting of state land and these properties, what exactly is meant by the vesting of state land in that sense? And then lastly, in terms of the 318 closed schools, what is the department doing, or is it the responsibility of the Department of Education in terms of safeguarding those properties until we find another way of utilizing those properties? Because as we know, many times these schools get carried away brick by brick if it is not safeguarded. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vicky. Honorable Konza, Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon to the honorable members, the HOD and the staff. I think, Honorable Chair, it would be proper for me to thank you first for raising the issue of what happened at the beginning, which a little bit dislodged me, honestly. Feeling undermined and insulted at the same time. Thank you for raising that, and I'm happy that it is going to be followed up. It just really took me down. I have a few observations and questions that I'm going to ask only on two programs. That is program 1 and program 2. In relation as to program 1 under the APP Slalo, in slide 7, there is I'm trying to think now what was this, what was the what is this kind of the indicator, but there is an indicator on slide 5, on slide 7 of program 1, where they were talking about 5% as the target to achieve. Unfortunately, Wandi, I don't have it in front of me.
The reduction of litigation plan.
Exactly, that is that. The reduction of litigations by 5%. Yes. Thank you very much, Slan. My question was, why reduce it? Why target to reduce it only by 5%? What are the informing contextual factors around the determination of that target, knowing how the litigations and also disciplinary issues affect the morale and also the performance of the department? Why only 5%? The second one was on slide 10. Again, I hope you will help me, Plan. But it was around an indicated percentage of invoices paid within 30 days. Yes, that they were
Yes.
saying that their target is 95%, which is good. But my question on this one, as much as they said that it is also determined by external factors, the performance in this. But the presenter made some elaborations that at a particular time they had achieved 97%, and recently they have also achieved 100%. And then now, why then target 95% if you have those performances that would, to me, act as your benchmark base for you to determine a much higher percentage, which is 100%. Why not 100% if you could achieve 100%? Is this not, in a way, could it not be interpreted as a soft target when you look at the achievement rate of the department in the previous ones? Then those are the ones under that one. Then the under program 2, the infrastructure programs or projects. There is something that I want to be clarified on as to whether they whether the department has realigned as per demarcation. In relation as to Buffalo City being Buffalo City, Amatole being Amatole, as per the demarcation lines of local government and so on, or the demarcation board. The reason why I am asking is that under the projects, there are 2 projects that I have identified being allocated under Amatole as an example. I might have seen others as well, but these are the 2 specifically that I saw. There might be others that I have not seen as well. That is what I wanted to say. The one is one that is saying it is in Mkanduli, but it is allocated under Amatole. And my knowledge is that Mkanduli should be in OR Tambo. The second one is offices in Zwelitsha that are also allocated under Amatole. Now, the reason why I want to check this is that when you look then at the total that has been allocated per district, you would find that maybe Amatole would sort of total up to more than 25 million plus, which is inclusive of these 2 areas. Now, was there no mistake there, or is there a justifiable explanation that could be given to me as to why those 2 areas are included in Amatole under those two projects? And then and then the other one is not in this slide. I want to be helped with it. I'm sorry, we are soon to release out of order this plan. I want to be helped with this one because when we made the visits as public works, I was allocated in Queenstown to go on the side of Queenstown to visit the schools there that are done by public works. The one school that is in Lady Frey is Zinutu High School that I went to, which has not been finished or completed, and it is at the verge. It was at the verge of dilapidating. The gutters had already fallen down. It's a very, very up-class high school, modern high school, but it was not completed, and we were sort of locked in there by community members that were saying that they are not given answers kakuhle ngalando. And I just want to check if Zinutu is in the plan of the department, and if, for instance, it is it the Department of Education that has not transferred funds there to Public Works, or is it that the funds from Public Works got diminished? I'm asking this here because when I spoke to department, I got my answer, which was pointing things to Public Works. I'm asking this case, Salo, under the problems that we're getting under COVID-19, and also the issue that those communities were saying there should be people that are going back there to address that issue from Public Works because they are very angry with Public Works. Nkosi Sihlalo.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nhlanhla. The third one is Honorable Mahlati.
Honorable Chair, I also want to come in if you don't mind.
Yes, Honorable Van Friend, you are the last one. Honorable Van Friend, you are the last one. Honorable Mahlati. Honorable Mahlati. Honorable Mahlati.
Hello?
Sigi? Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable Mahlati, yes. It's your turn, Honorable Member.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, this sir.
Ay, the moment.
Sorry. Andisakhumbuli program bani na Honorable Chairperson. Bekuthethwa ngento ye properties ekuhlalwa kuzo illegally eziye zathengiswa. Kwathi bathi bakwemagqwetheni kuthethwa ngamagqwetha befuna uqonda nje ngaloo nto lwaya ixesha lazo uba igqitywe yonke into emagqwetheni inini na and zitshekishe uba ezi zithengiswe ngemali erayithi na kubizwa i-evaluators uba zisijonge uba zithengiswe ngemali na erayithi. Yiloo nto nje qha kuphela. Enkosi.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Mahlati. I think the question yako is similar to the one of Honorable Vicky. Then Honorable Van Vuuren.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you for the presentations to the officials. Honorable Chair, I've got about 6 questions, 3 on Program 1 and 3 on Program 2. On Program 1, one of my questions are similar to the question asked by, I think, Honorable Knutzer, but maybe a little differently posed. Honorable Knutzer asked whether the department is still checking whether there are people doing business with the department. I want to know what tool the department is using to investigate employees doing business with the state. If they can give us some clarity on the type of tools that they are using to ascertain those that are doing business with the state. And also, if there are people, officials that have been doing business before that were warned and that are still doing business with the state, what happened to those people? And have any actions been taken against people doing business with the state? Because this thing is coming on a long way and the department needs to act. That's question 1. Question 2, we have spoken about consultants within the department. I know the department is a technical department. We don't have, sometimes we don't have the capacity within the department. But can the department kindly inform us as to the status quo of the consultants within the department? And then lastly, the department are dishing out a lot of bursaries on a yearly basis for people to complete certain courses that will enable them to work within the structures of the department. How many of these ex-bursary holders have been employed, and how many could not find a job within the Department of Public Works? That's on Program 1. On Program 2, Honorable Chair, the department is talking about infrastructure designs that are ready for tender. We don't know what these designs are, for what and where. Could the department give us some background on these designs that are ready for tender? Some of those designs, not all. And then, what is the total cost of rentals over the last term that has been incurred by the department? The department is paying a lot of rentals for other departments. Could the department tell us as the amount that they are currently paying for rentals? And then lastly, this is a concern. as members of the provincial legislature who state in the houses, that falls under the prestige section. After each term, our furniture are replaced. What happens to those furniture that's been removed from our houses? We don't know. Could we get some information on that as well? I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Van Vuuren. Thank you so much. From me, Miss Makiana, that is program 1. Only 2 questions. The one is on slide number 7. The percentage of disciplinary cases finalized within 90 days. Your target is 100%. Now, my question is, how many disciplinary cases that you have currently? How many disciplinary cases that you have currently and the status of those disciplinary cases? The second question is on slide number 10, the number of matters of emphasis in the audit report. Your target there is 2. In your current report, how many matters of emphasis that do you have? How many matters that do you have? And on the following line, the number of material findings in the audit report. Your target is 4. And how many do you have currently? How many do you have currently? Those are the 2 questions from program number 1. Then on program 2, Ms. Pema, I think in your last presentation, I don't know whether it was in the last financial year, I think so. You presented here that now you are going to use artisans for day-to-day operations. Now you are speaking of a service provider that has been appointed. Now my question is, what is it that is going to be done by this service provider? If you have appointed artisans, but at the same time you are saying that this service provider is going to act as a mentor to the artisans. The question I'm getting is that ingaba these artisans that were employed, the full-time artisans, were not qualified to be artisans. If you are saying now that you are going to make the point that the service provider that you have employed is going to transfer skills to the artisans. Secondly, Ms. Pema, on the I don't know whether it's Annex number one, the Prestige Implementation Plan. You are saying that your budget for the renovation, the maintenance, and whatever of the state-owned houses is 30 million. According to this annexure, that is your action plan, you have then stipulated here, and you have then explained on how you are going to spend the 30 million. But my problem to this one is your targeted date. If we are talking of the 2020-2021 financial year, and your target date goes beyond 2021, because according to your action plan, you have e-houses where target it's November 2022, it's June 2022, April 2022, but the 30 million that you have put aside is meant for this financial year. Secondly, on this same action plan, I think under activity, you have got only one activity, the building repairs, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical. I just want to check if the issue of the curtains, furniture, and other stuff, is it included under those building repairs, electrical and plumbing things now. That's one. Then I don't know whether it's the third one or what. You promised when you were making your presentation that you are going to talk later about the 300 land survey sites, if I am correct. And I think there is an annexure that speaks to that with a total estimated cost of 4 million, where there is a list of schools. Mhlawumbe this one indishiyile uthetha ngayo into yobana kanene le list yezikolo where uzokwenza khona mhlawumbe le survey mhlawumbe indishiyile where you have to explain on it about what is it that is going to be done kahle kahle kwezi zikolo. Let me go now to Mr. Mtuba. Before that, Ms. Penga, I think there is you mentioned here that you are then communicating with the Deputy Speaker about on internal arrangement about Lendo years in Zamalung. I think there is also a correspondence that is on the way from Rules Committee, because I'm also sitting there, whereby they need update on what is happening, because members are not happy ngendlela imeko eziyo izindlu zabo, and mhlawumbe ungabikho even the communication ethi kuzokwenza ntoni. I remember one member Honorable Chief Whip esithi into yobana ufike kukho i-contract esebenza endlini yakhe mhlawumbe loo nto itsho into yobana this is the contractor mhlawumbe this is the one that we were referring to. This is the service provider izakwenza A no B no C. Mhlawumbe ke ilekhishe kuloo ndawo, mhlawumbe ke he was not there. That just i-communication so that kwaziwe ngokuba silapha senza ntoni na. Let me go then to Mr. Mtuba under building. Mr. Mtuba, I think your planning is nice and good. On buildings, I didn't hear you mentioning amongst your buildings legislature as one of your sites and as supervisor in your planning for COVID-19 pandemic. What is it that you are planning to do, or else what is it that you are doing currently to curb the COVID-19? In fact, kwezinye buildings, I can hear you saying that this is what you are going to do. Secondly, the issue of the security companies that we have contracted, just to check and to be specific to the one that is contracted for the complex Bishop. The issue ye thermometer, is it supposed to be bought by the service provider, or is it supposed to be provided by Public Works? That mhlawumbe kube ne thermometer phaya egate, whereby these security guards ziyakwazi ukucheckisha abantu when they are coming in, because yenzeka mos na kwi-buildings loo nto leyo whereby i-security guards zicheckishe i-temperature ebantwini. Mhlawumbe ke I might be wrong and ndikorekishe if mhlawumbe ayinakwenzeka apha le nto yokucheckishwa kwe-temperature yabantu abangenayo phaya egeyithini ne-sanitizer as well. Ukuba ngaba mhlawumbe that one yi-role ye-service provider, mhlawumbe niyayicheckishile naloo nto uba banazo na ezo zinto, let alone the checklist okanye ke where they record uba ngubani ngoku ongenayo ngubani ophumayo. Again, on the building part, Mr. Mtuba, 192,000 if I'm not mistaken. If you check that, I know that you are just an implementing agent insofar as these quarantine sites, the hospitals are concerned. But again, we question him because after you have only the number of beds that will be procured and what. But I just want to check whether the finances that are going to be used there are the finances from Public Works or the finances from Department of Health. That's my question. The reason why is that there is also a question, a question of the readiness, the state of the readiness of our province to deal with the crisis that is being seen coming kulento ye COVID-19 pandemic, whether we are ready enough. And when they are asking that particular question, Public Works ukhona apha emilebeni that they don't see Public Works ready to assist the province insofar as the infrastructure is concerned. So that is why I'm checking, because also now planning up, you have the number of beds, the number of what, the number of what. So that means as much as money implementing agent, Mzambi, you are fully involved kulento preparations alento. Are you ready now? Mzambi, if not, how far are you in terms of readiness? Yes, the report is saying that you have completed so many number of projects. The outstanding number is this, but now are you ready now as Public Works to assist the province? I think those are a few questions from you, from me, department. Then I'll hand over to you, Ms. Machana, Ms. Penga, and Mr. Mtuba to respond to those questions.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. In relation to Program 1, I will also invite some of my colleagues in the sub-programs to respond to some of the questions. We might be providing a little bit of information now, but maybe a detailed and formal submission in cases where we don't have the detail. I'll take some of the questions, but I would request Mr. Dike to respond to the questions that are relating to employees dealing with business, as well as the tools that we are using for that. The question from Honorable Kanfuran. The issue of the organogram, Mr. Kufa, bursaries, as well as the issue of the, what else was there? The current status of the cases. I think you can take that one. It's more corporate services. Also, the CFO can take the question from the Honorable Chairperson in relation to the number of matters of emphasis and the material findings. Yes, I might attempt to answer some of the ones that are dealing with the targets. We might have a formal submission in relation to others. In relation to the reduction in the number of negative audit opinion within the department, there are several activities that the program or communication is planning to do on a daily basis, scanning the newspapers, clippings, the radio coverages, as well as the media reports, analyzing those to check which ones are positive, which ones are negative, and ensuring that they are responding proactively to the ones that are negative. So there's a whole branding strategy that the department and branding management that the department is going to work on. Also looking at gathering some newsworthy activity information or news about the department and disseminating those through our publications. Also responding to the media inquiries that are coming, especially from the newspapers and other platforms. So we are also planning to do that. We are also planning to write opinion pieces and editorials to ensure that we are promoting and advertising what Public Works is doing. Some other activities, including media tours, breakfast meetings, that also the MEC will be engaged on. So those are all the activities that the department will try to implement to boost the image and try to reduce the negative image of the department. But we can provide the detail in relation to those activities. Okay. I don't know whether the CFO or Ms. Pengwa can assist us in how much money is owed to municipalities. That is more than 30 days. I think that is the information that we need to gather and have appropriate information submitted to the committee. On the questions raised by Honorable Kwanzaa, slide 7, the 5% reduction of litigations. Why is the department only targeting 5%? There is a trend analysis that has been made in relation to the litigations that the department and how we are losing or winning those litigations. So we are planning to gradually, there's a litigation strategy that is going to be developed by legal to ensure that we are proactive and anticipating some of the issues that might cause the department to be litigated. So this is a gradual reduction. We are planning to have at least 20% reduction over 5 years, which has been broken down to 5 years. So according to the legal team that was providing the target, looking at the track record of what has been happening over the years, they've deemed it fit that at least 5% of those obligations should be reduced within this financial year. The issue of 85% payment of invoices, which the honorable member acknowledged that we have explained. But why didn't we use, the further explanation that I provided, that at the end of 2019-20, we are seeing a record of 97% achievement. But however, when we're doing the planning, we are planning using the baseline 2018-19, which is 85%. The 97% is the figures that are coming up in the annual report that we are still providing. So, preparing. So the baselines that we use are not related to 2019-18, 2019-20. We are using the baselines for 2018-19, which is 85%. Hence, we then targeted 85%. But what I was explaining is that we are already seeing or anticipating that we are going to exceed this target, given the fact that we are looking at what is coming up in the annual report that is due in July and what is coming up in the performance of the department this financial year, 2020-21, where the first 2 months have seen 100%. But however, in terms of the plans which were developed and are supposed to be tabled in March, we can't be using the figures that are coming up in June with the annual report. I hope I've explained that properly. Yes. I think that is about all that I can ask. If I can ask my colleagues to come in on the status quo of the consultants, we can also provide a breakdown of that, a trend analysis over the past 5 years. But suffice to say, at this stage, from 2017-18, we were 148. We used an amount of 143 million for consultants, but that has tremendously reduced. To this financial year, 19-20, we are using 15. We have used 15 million. So this has reduced over the years, but we can provide the detail of the analysis from the beginning of the 5th term until the end of the term. That information is still being consolidated as part of the annual report. Thank you, Chair. Can I invite my colleagues to come in?
Oh, yes.
Honorable
Yes,
Chair.
yes, Ms. Macken. Yes, Lauren?
Honourable Chair, good evening. Honourable members and all my colleagues, good evening. I will respond on some of the questions. Thank you for the insightful questions raised. Let me start with the audit report, Honourable Chair. Currently, in the emphasis of matter paragraphs in the audit report, we have 3 items, and our target is now reduced to 2. The reason we're keeping the 2 is that we have incurred irregular expenditure and fruitless expenditure in the year under audit. So it will not be easy to remove those 2 items. If you incur at all any amount of those 2, those emphasis of matter paragraphs remain. The one that we're targeting to remove, Honourable Chair, is the one on annual financial statements, where we've implemented stronger internal controls to make sure there's no material adjustments to the annual financial statements. So the target is from 3 to 2. When we move to the material findings in the audit report, Honourable Chair, there's currently 5 material findings, and we're reducing that to 4. Once again, we're targeting for the annual financial statements not to be a material finding. Of course, these irregular and fruitless expenditure is part of that original 5 that is in the current audit report. Chair, if I can move on to the question on the debt. The debt that is owed to municipalities. As at year end, Honourable Chair, there is different categories of debt that we owe to municipalities. There is debt that we're waiting for outstanding documentation from municipalities, and we also have teams working with those municipalities to get that debt confirmed. There's also rates and taxes raised on unsurveyed properties. There's also rates and taxes raised on properties not owned by the provincial department. And then there's also disputed charges. What I'm getting to, Honourable Chair, is the confirmed debt of 24 million as at 31 March 2020. This 24 million is all 100% over 30 days, and we pay that by the end of the first quarter. So by 30 June 2020, this debt will be settled. Honourable Chair, if you request, I've got detailed report on this debt analysis and to showcase how we've reduced this balance. I'm moving to another question, Honourable Chair, about the furniture. The furniture that we replace, or let's call it the old furniture, we deal with that in 3 ways. Number 1, we keep it in storage. We've got an inventory listing of that furniture available. Secondly, we dispose of that furniture through a public auction. We've got a disposal policy in place, and the disposals are approved by accounting officer, HOD only. And then thirdly, we also use a small category of donation, where MSC will do an outreach program and identify a destitute family, and we will donate that furniture. Of course, that donation is also treated as a disposal, and the asset must be removed from the financial statements. Chair, thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Mtuba or Ms. Penma?
Oh.
Apologies, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson.
Apologies. Yes.
Honorable.
We're not done with program 1. Mr. Dike and Mr. Kufa are still going to come in.
Okay, sorry for that. Sorry for that, Ms. Penma. Okay.
Can I come in?
Can I chip in, Honorable Chair?
Yes.
Yes. Good evening, Honorable Chair, honorable members, honorable MEC, our HOD, and our fellow colleagues. I am responding to the question that has been asked by Honorable Van Vuuren regarding the tools that are being used to investigate the employees that are doing business with the state, and also the question that was asking, what are we doing as a department to deal with those officials that have been found to be doing business with the state? First of all, I just want to tackle the issue of the focus of the department in terms of this is more on prevention than investigation. But then we have an anti-corruption policy, and out of that anti-corruption policy within the department, we've got a conflict of interest policy, which is used in conjunction with the investigation policy, where we actually deal with the issues. Number one, at the beginning of each and every financial year, the HOD issue an instruction note that is reminding the officials about public service regulations of 2016 and also the PEM Act, which are indicating that no official must conduct business with the state. In this financial year already, we have already issued that. It is followed by the process of declaration of interest, where employees, they declare their companies, and also the process of financial disclosure of SMS members and those officials that have been designated, like for instance, your supply chain staff, your financial management staff, where they are allowed to declare. Again, we've got the Treasury reports that we are getting from Treasury in each and every 2 months. Those reports are indicating the officials that have been found to have been registered within the central supplier database of Treasury. Then we also have the CATs that we normally receive from Auditor General when they are doing their regular audit. Out of the information, and we also have those information that will come as reports alleging that some of the officials might be doing business. So what we are doing there, we normally do a thorough investigation of those, of which in most of the cases, the employees that are found in the list from Treasury are the employees that have only just registered in the supplier database. They have not actually conducted business. But then again, there might be also those cases where there are new employees who have done business before they joined Public Works. But after joining Public Works, they receive an indication that they must stop doing business with the state. And fortunately, even on the list that we have got from Auditor General, we have clarified all those cases. There has been no employee that has been doing business with the state within our government, within our department. Again, we do the searches on the CIPC. Those searches are actually assisting us in terms of checking or monitoring the conflict of interest within our department. Hence, we are having this indicator also in the APP that says we are targeting a 0% of employees that are doing or conducting business with the state, of which we have been achieving that in these past years. We have been clarifying those issues, and some of the employees that are found in the list of Treasury at times are these APCOT students, which are not officials. They are students that are doing a particular training within our department, of which Treasury is also allowing us to indicate those APCOT students, and also sometimes those audit or risk committee members, which are actually not meeting the definition of the employees. So in actual fact, I can just indicate to the honorable members that for all the cases that have been forwarded to the department to indicate that these officials might have been conducting business with the state, we have clarified all those cases. We don't have currently officials that are doing with the state. The only officials that might be there are those that have been registered with the supplier database, of which we have been engaging them, and we have also been actually doing awareness, discussing these issues with them, and we have been able to have a process that is clear in dealing with that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Olile. Who is next? Stella. Is it you?
Yes, Ndim Chair.
Okay. Yes.
Enkosi Sihlalo, mandithathe lithuba ndizawuphendula. The first question on the structure, whether the structure have been approved. The structure have been developed and signed off by the Honorable MEC of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. And that was done in the 4th quarter and submitted in the Office of the Premier for validation in March 2020. So it's in that process now of a validation. As indicated in the slide, the process of validation, once it is done, the structure will be taken to DPSA, who gives or check and give a concurrence for the MEC to approve. So in other words, the structure is not yet approved for implementation, but the department have finished developing the structure. The next question, Honorable Chair, is the question on the issue of the ex-bursary holders. That was asked by Honorable Van Vieren. Firstly, the number of candidate professionals ever since we started the program of the bursaries, we currently have people that have already now qualified as professionals. And that number is 23 of them that are currently in the ranks permanently appointed as professionals within the Department of Public Works. That's the first category. And I've got with me the list of all those professionals in different ranks within the built environment that are in the personal report of the Department of Public Works. Then secondly, the category of those ex-bursary holders that have just qualified from school but still need to undergo a professional development program. It was alluded to in the policy speech of the MEC that 100 of them now are undergoing that program on a fixed term of 36 months. So those are placed in the current candidacy program that is taking place. So those ones, they are not permanently employed now. They are in that program. Once they are qualified in that program, the department will be at the disposal of the department depending on the number that the department is able to afford to appoint permanently. But remember that this program is also done not only for the Department of Public Works, but for other infrastructure sectors within the province. So we are at liberty as the department as well, once they qualify, that they can also be indicated to be available for employment by other sectors within the province. The last category of the ex-bursary holders, we have got those that are not yet placed. The number is 34. Currently, before the COVID breakdown, we have already made plans as part of our annual recruitment plan for this year, made a submission for approval by the Director General for us to place those 34 candidate professionals into the program. So now that we're in level 3, we are resuscitating that program. We have already submitted to the Office of the Premier to consider that so that we can be able to place those 34 that are left. Then the last question, Chairperson, is on the disciplinary hearings. How many disciplinary hearings that we have this financial year that are in progress? We have got 5 disciplinary hearing cases that are in the roll for this financial year, 2020-2021. And all those 5, Chairperson, are the cases that were not finalized by the 31st of March, 2020, 5 of them. Charges were already been laid against the person. There were also dates, some of them, there was already sittings, but the cases were postponed. And we had to reschedule the dates because the dates were scheduled for March, and then until we closed the financial year. In April, we could not because of the outbreak of the COVID. Now we're in the process now of setting the other cases sitting on the 15th and the 17th of June. And other cases now we're arranging with the chairpersons or the presiding officers
as well as the employee reps to start now arranging dates to finalize those disciplinary hearings. So those are the questions, Chairperson. But I think, if you allow me, the question that you asked on the issue of the provision of thermostat on the side of occupational health and safety, for all state-owned buildings, especially those that are shared, you find that some are shared, some are. So the department, what the department does for those that are shared, at the access point, the department is responsible to provide the PPE, the personal protective, including those thermostat, so that those security officers that are manning those entrants are the ones. So I believe even e-legislature is part of the Department of Public Works one. But Umamupenga will also confirm as a project leader of that. But on the occupational health and safety perspective, that is the responsibility of our department for state-owned buildings and those that are shared. It's only those ones that the department are having control in the entire building, that they will procure those thermostat machines to be used by security officers. I thought I must just add it on that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Celo. Thank you very much. Now, let us move to program 2. Managers, Ms. Benga.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The first question was on the number of properties in Nelson Mandela which have been disposed. We haven't done any outright disposals in the Nelson Mandela Bay. The only disposals that we haven't disposed as yet, we've gone out on tender. The 32 properties that I spoke to in my presentation, there were 6 properties in the Nelson Mandela Bay, which we had advertised, so that would be a disposal through a long-term lease, which those have not yet been concluded, which I said they must still go for evaluation and adjudication. And in terms of the values, but also we have 32 properties that have been included in the bid book. Those properties are the properties that will be showcased at the property conference that I spoke to. And I think the total value of that, it's around 15.3 million. That is the value of the properties using the municipal valuations thereof. The special transformation properties that I spoke to, and I think I spoke to them even in my presentation, it's more the nature reserves that will be giving towards the land reform program. Your double drift near Pedi, Silaka, in Port St. John's, Isluleka, near Willowvale, Nedwesa, near Angeles Neck, and also there's another property in Pedi, to be disposed to the Msutwana family. Those are the properties in terms of the submission by the Land Reform Commission in Rural Development. And the 25 properties that we spoke to, that will also be, disposed through long-term leases. They are in various locations. We have them in East London, Gunubi, Hamburg, Bethel, Grahamstown. So these properties are located everywhere in the province. They've been identified already. There is a listing to that effect because this is an APP target. So there is a listing of the 25 properties. The 40% in terms of the contract values, because our commitments against the 323 million, which has been allocated for leasing, the commitments at the moment we are sitting at 279 million. So if you take 40% of that, we are targeting at least 100+ million of that, of the contract value of our contracts should go towards, the transformation agenda. That's what we are targeting. With regard to vesting, if vesting talks to the confirmation of ownership, a property would vest in terms of the Constitution, Section 239, whether it vests provincially or nationally. And that determination is made by first ascertaining ukuthi property on the 27th of April 1994, what was it used for, or what was it intended to be used for? That would then determine whether that property should then vest provincially or should vest nationally. If a property is vacant land and it was earmarked on the 27th of April to build a school, whether the school has been built or not, it was earmarked for a specific function. Chairperson, it would then vest provincially, because education is a competency of the provincial government. So that's how properties are vested. In terms of the closed schools, whether are we safeguarding them, we are not aggressively safeguarding these closed schools. And I think it talks to the magnitude and the number of these schools. Hence, I think Mr. Saki, when he was presenting, he made mention that there is now a plan which EPWP will be rolling out to recruit EPWP participants whom are going to be trained to be used to safeguard these assets. And I'm sure the recruitments would happen in areas where these schools are located. So there is a plan within the department which is going to be cheaper if other than going a conventional way of appointing security companies, because the cost that it would attract, it would even outweigh, in terms, the cost would outweigh what you are getting from that, because you're getting nothing from the property. But there is a concerted plan in terms of safeguarding these closed schools. The Operation Bring Back is it's not going to be a once-off program to try and get these properties back. For now, we are looking at 3 years, because it's a process. There's going to be investigations that must be commissioned, before you can even, maybe some of these matters would land up in court, for decisions and all that. So it's going to be a process which I'm sure we will finally, because we've developed a concept document already. So it will be rolled out over a period of years, but with clear deliverables as to what is it that we want to achieve. And also, Chairperson, you spoke to the use of artisans. I made a presentation that we are going to use artisans in the Prestige portfolio. It is still the case, Honorable Chair, to utilize our own, capacity, which we have created as a department, where we've trained these artisans. But because their level of skill, it has got to be upscaled. So there is some element of reskilling that has got to be done so that they're able to take care of these properties, because I think they have been redundant. They were not active in their space. So they need that reskilling. Hence, we are talking about mentorship by linking them up with these service providers that we are going to be appointing for them to gain some training and skills, so that at the end they will be able to take over, the maintenance of these facilities. The implementation plan, Chairperson, the 30 million that I spoke to, I indicated when I was presenting that it's not solely for Prestige. It's a portion of it is for the other facilities like your offices. So a portion of it would go towards Prestige, and hence this kind of work will be rolled, over a period of time, because we are constrained in terms of budget. But if we could get, but I'm sure we will keep on, lobbying and making our submissions to Treasury to get more money so that we can do most of these houses, at once. The other services I included, Chairperson, in that implementation plan, the procurement of furniture, and the likes, they are included. If you look on, before you get to the table where we are talking about the refurbishments of these houses, the other services are indicated as to what is going to happen with regard to the procurement of furniture. I went as far as saying that we have received a document from nationally on the norms on the norms and standards for the furniture that we will be using when we go out on tender. So that is what we are going to be using. In terms of the survey plan, I think I've spoken to that as well, Chairperson. I said we've got a plan of 300 for this financial year, as well as that we have developed a forward plan for the balance of the properties that must be surveyed. And the fact that now there is a tariff which is gazetted, which is more favorable in terms of pushing the backlog that we have as a province, but also that is linked to the availability of the budget. But our plan for this financial year is 300. We are pushing that. We are even busy now with the appointment of the surveyors using the tariffs, because we appoint these, when you appoint them, we give them batches of properties to survey, not one by one. And then that tariff base, which has been gazetted, is going to assist us, in terms of the cost. The communication we have already received, Chairperson, the communication that you are referring to. There's a meeting planned next week where we will be presenting the implementation plan and the other aspects in the Prestige portfolio. But I take note of this issue that, the communication, we need to consult and communicate when we are planning to do any work within a member's house. I will pick that up with the colleagues. It's not supposed to happen like that. We communicate with members before we go to a house. We don't just rock up to a house unannounced, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Chair.
Kubanilo,
Ngumalkhanye Mtuba, Honorable Chair.
ubizwe ngubani? Ubizwe ngubani Mtuba? Ngoba ndisabulela usisiphucuka nge-response. Andikathi ngena. Ngoku wena wathotha ungaphakathi endlini ubizwe ngubani? Uyayibona lento yale ezi virtual meetings, umuntu uvela umbone sengaphakathi. Fana nomzi ongabiwanga. Ngena Mtuba ngoba sowuphakathi. Respond.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Okay.
Apologies for that. Chair, I will try and respond to the few questions that were posed to buildings infrastructure. Let me first appreciate the discovery by the honorable member in terms of the mistake that I have made in my presentation, where I had said the offices in Mkanduli are under Amathole. Apologies for that. It's an error. They were supposed to be under our Ambo, so it's just an error. However, in terms of the realignment of projects as per the demarcations, the department, Honorable Chair, is only in the process of establishing other regions. But for now, we are still demarcating our projects as per the old regions. So most projects that are currently in PCM will still appear under Amathole. But I think it's a call to correct that. Hence, I say I appreciate the discovery. We will address that. On the school at Zingu in Lady Frey, Honorable Chair, the school is not amongst those schools that Public Works is implementing. However, as an infrastructure nerve center, I would like to request your indulgence on this. I will request the OE to furnish me with the information, and I will submit a a report to the committee if the committee allows. At this point in time, I wouldn't like to fabricate any stories around this. It will be addressed, and I'll finish the committee with a report. With your permission, Honorable Chair. The designs ready for tender. In my presentation, Honorable Chair, I think it is on slide 16 under buildings infrastructure. My presentation on projects ready for tender. I have 10 projects as per the APP targets. The template that I have speaks of where the projects will be taking place in the form of the regions, and in the project names, it specifies what exactly each project is for. I would like to cite just one project maybe. There's an upgrade of water reticulation system, sewage system, and structural repairs at Kiamzashe. So we are basically working on the plumbing issues at Kiamzashe, which is in Bisho. If you, one project that I spoke about, which was the training center, the construction of training center and workshop in Makanda, we will be setting up a training center. So I think, I don't know if the honorable member did not take note of that, but we have tried in our project description to state where the project is taking place and what will be happening. Unless one needs to give the scope of works extensively. Then I think on the issues of the legislature, my appreciation goes to Mr. Kufa. I think he has covered that. I would also request that maybe there was an issue of security that was raised around that. If she can come in to assist. But on the issue, the last one being, where is the money for these projects being sourced? I would request that our CFO give an insight on that, Chair, with your permission.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right then. Lawrence?
Honorable Chair, thank
Yes.
you very much. I'm just unmuting. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. This funding is voted with the Department of Health, and we are acting as an implementing agent on behalf of health. So the two MECs has identified all the projects, all the hospital spaces, and as Public Works, we submit a monthly claim against the Department of Health on actual awards made. So the spending will be audited at the Department of Health. We're just the implementing agent. Thank you, Chair.
The terms of the state of our province so far is this COVID-19 is concerned. Can you, who can respond to that? HOT? HOT? HOT?
Yeah, yes, Honorable Chair.
Yes.
I'm here. Yeah.
Can you respond to that question?
The state of readiness on.
Yes.
If we can deduce from the report that Mr. Mtuba tabled, and from and say from the date when the disaster was declared, we have since assessed and completed 17 projects out of 37 awards, and we are currently ready to go for field hospitals, as I said. So we could say that in terms of the provision of infrastructure, we intend completing all renovations by the 31st of October. Health has taught us that the peak will be in September, and we are thus there with the peak in terms of renovations. In terms of the provision of quarantine facilities, we activate those as the need arises. So we have not had a situation where we are overburdened in our sites. We have always been there ready whenever the need arises. So we may say, Chairperson, in terms of public works and public works as contribution to the fight against COVID, we are there. We are there in assisting. However, we must point out, Chairperson, which is a presentation we have made to health, that ever since our involvement in the refurbishment of health facilities, it has come to our attention, and it's what the Honorable MEC has even alluding to in various meetings, that the infrastructure in health facilities requires more than what is available to bring it to par with what would be needed in future needs in terms of your NHI, etc. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Those were the responses, honorable members, for the questions that we have raised. Are there any follow-ups, or you are covered by the responses?
Honorable Chair, Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable
Honorable
Fanfiran?
Chair.
Yes.
Honorable Chair, there is a follow-up, one follow-up. I don't know whether I've missed the response, but the question that I have put is what happens to the furniture after the member have been supplied with new furniture? What does Department of Public Works do with those furniture, and can we have an inventory of that furniture and so on?
I think you have missed that one. May you please repeat that, Olile? Olile, are you still there?
Chair, it's Mrs. Penga who was answering that one.
Okay, fine. Yes, Ms. Kutuga.
Is the CFO, CFO respond? It was the CFO chairperson who responded.
Honorable Chair, I will come in and repeat.
What are you doing?
Honorable Chair, can I come in?
Proceed, Ms. Pen.
Honorable Chair, can I come in?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you,
please.
Honorable Chair.
Yes,
The furniture that we replace, firstly, we put that in storage and we create an inventory listing, which is available for view. And then we dispose this furniture in two ways. Number one, we do it through a public auction, through our own disposal policy. Those disposals can only be approved by the accounting officer. Secondly, we also donate a small portion of these furnitures to desolate families identified in any outreach program. So that is the disposal we used. Also, in the current financial year, in the last financial year, we donated beds to schools, in specific to hostels, and we kept record of that. Any donation or any disposal must be recorded, and the asset must be removed from the asset register. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are you covered now, Honorable Fanfiran? Honorable Fanfiran.
I'm covered, Chair. I'm covered. I say thank you to the CFO. I'm covered, Chair. I'm covered. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think now we are done with the yellow. Yes. Who is that one?
It's Khabe, Chair.
May you please mute Fanfiran? switch off your mic, please.
Yes, I'm trying.
Van Vuren, please, you are trying.
It's Khabe, Chair.
Oh, Honorable Khabe.
Chair, I don't know. Nobana ibibuziwe nandi better na network upon the call, but maybe it's about a long voice, so the follow up. But I think let me raise the question regardless. The department has a very progressive initiative of roping in SMMEs, developing them. With regards to SMME support, out of the SMMEs that were appointed during this COVID-19 period, how many have we supported through the incubation program? I'm asking this, Chair, because as we were going around as Health Reform Committee, I self-appointed myself, sorry, Chair, for that, to also conduct an oversight the public works projects that were in those hospitals. I've noted that there were SMMEs that struggled, yet the department has this progressive program, as I've said, to support them. Can the committee be given a detailed report in this regard as to which SMMEs that were supported and how they were supported? Let me be specific on this one. SMME, it was in Bambisane Hospital that we visited. So can we have a detail of the SMMEs that have been supported by the incubation program or through the incubation program throughout this period of also, Chair, the second question is a follow-up question as to when will the recruitment for safeguarding these schools happen? Chair, this one is not a question, but let me just stress, Chair, that this financial year, can we please see these plans being actioned? Because we know our departments that they give out progressive plans, but they don't implement them. Can we not be charmed by words this time around? Can we see action? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Khabe. I just want to check, when you say that you request or you want a detailed report, do you mean a written report, or you want them to respond now?
They can respond if they have supported them, and then it must be coupled with accompanied by the detailed report, written one, to the committee, Chair, as to which SMMEs have they supported and how did they support them. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks so much, Honorable Khabe. Ms. Majan. Yes.
Good evening, Honorable Chairperson.
Come again.
I hear you.
Can you repeat? Come again.
I'm here, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes, Ms. Majana?
Yes.
Yes, my dear. You can proceed, Ms. Majana.
Okay, my hand wasn't up, Honorable Chairperson. I think the question that is asked by Honorable Khabe, the program that will be best positioned to respond to is Program 3, EPWP.
Okay. Because she was referring to SMMEs.
Yes, the support of SMMEs is in Program 3.
Oh, Program 3, yes.
Yes, Mr. Saki, we can be best positioned to respond to that.
Saki, Ume Kitchen, Udalifela, where is he?
I'm here, Honorable Chair.
Yes. Yes. Can you respond to the question posed by Honorable Khabe?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I will submit a request that we submit a written and detailed report on the matter. But safe to say that yeah, okay. Then on the issue of the safeguarding of our properties, we are now currently busy with the concept document, and it's linked with the finalization of the redevelopment of the Amathuba Jobs Portal, because as EPWP will be now doing our recruitment through the Amathuba Jobs Portal. So that would enable anyone and everyone in the province to be able to go directly to that link and make and submit their application electronically. So that process of redevelopment will be finalized by the end of this month, as well as the concept for Operation Kusela, which is meant for the safeguarding of the immovable assets. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Remind me, guys, who was responding to the question of thermostat? Who are talking about the thermostat here? Is it not you, Kolile?
It was Mr. Kufa, Chair. Mr. Kufa responded on
Mr.
that,
Kufa.
Chair. Yes, Chair.
Where is he?
Khona
Mr.
Sihlalo.
Kufa?
Ndikhona Sihlalo.
Indoni thermostat?
Ila thermometer ila ulamchini Sihlalo lo ucheka i-temperature ubekwa kufutshane nebunzi, then usetyenziswa i-security okanye lo mntu utrainele into yoba makathathe i-temperature xa kuscreen umntu ezawungena okanye thathe i-access to i-state building. Undivile Sihlalo?
Thermometer indoni?
Ila thermometer.
Into eyi-1. Ewe, into eyi-1 Sihlalo. Le thatha i-temperature isetyenziswa uthatha i-temperature.
Ndiyakuva, i-thermometer indoni? Celo. I-thermometer indoni yona? Into eyi-1. Honorable Kgabe?
Yes.
Honorable Mascelo. Honorable Kgabe. Honorable Kgabe.
Chair.
I-thermometer ne-thermostat, is it one and the same thing?
Chair. Does the thermometer not esibhedlela, Chair? Andiyazi i-thermostat, andiyazi kwi-fridge lento, so it may be one thing andiyazi, but kule language yethu sikhala ngo-thermometer.
I-thermometer.
I-thermostat isemotweni Sihlalo.
Hayi, uthi ke i-thermostat xa kuthiwa i-thermometer ne-thermostat into enye yokutshekisha i-temperature.
I-thermostat igesi.
Yes, bitayo.
Kuthiwa Chair apha i-thermometer, it tells you the temperature, and then i-thermostat, it regulates the temperature.
Eyantoni temperature? Apha kwi-thermostat, eyantoni temperature?
I think nje suppose basebenzise igama elithi thermometer to check the temperature, and then i-thermostat yona it only regulates the temperature, make the temperature.
Neyomntu iregulator yi-thermostat.
No,
Sihlalo.
Sihlalo.
I-thermostat iregulator i-temperature egizini. Emanzini ke
thermometer. Benze i-mistake, Sihlalo.
So, Chairperson. So, public works regulate temperature. So, first buildings but regulate temperature yabantu. Is that what this tell mean?
Hayi mandixolise Sihlalo. I meant to say i-thermometer leyo asiregulate thina sube siscreena i-employee okanye i-visitor. Iride ke ngoku ndiyaxolisa Sihlalo.
Setyenziswa i-thermometer using i-thermostat ke ngoku yile ngxaki. Isicelo hayi bendingawubamba umcimbi. ngoba uthi into enye. Honorable members, I think if everybody is covered, that concludes the business of the day. That concludes the business of the day. Thank you very much for participating in the meeting. And your dedication.
Siyabulela Sihlalo. So dibana every day kwakhona.
Mahlatsi. Felix.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Mslati, Honorable Mslati, go sleep now. Goodbye.
Edma.
Yes, I'm still awake.
Yes, Bar.
Yeah,
said that.
That's okay.
Is the meeting over?
Stefan Ferran, it's not over.
Is it not over? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Where are you now?
I want to go sleep. I'm tired
Of what?
of listening to you.
You are out of order. Honorable Fanfiran and Honorable Mahlati, you are out of order.
The meeting is not over.
Sorry.
I was still saying that. Thank you very much to see you implementing the program. Otherwise, thank you very much. It's promising. It's really promising. It's really promising. Thank you so much, honored members. Our next meeting is on the Amanda. When is our next meeting? Amanda Slepu.
Can you hear me, Chair?
When is our... Hello.
Hello, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Our next meeting. Can you hear me, Chairperson?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Our next meeting is on the 15th of June. Only for a committee to adopt the report.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, sis. Okay. Our next meeting now is on the
only the committee to adopt the report. The committee report.
Okay.
No 14.
Thanks. So
on Friday,
don't know the time.
But vele ubhatalise nezinsuku zimbini oluyaludlulileyo ndingazi ukuba ndaxelelwa uba wafike wenzani apha entlanganisweni.
Oh man.
Ndimane ndikubona ingathi ulayiti lukhona kanti kwenzeke enye into ngaphaya.
The 15th is on a Monday. The 15th is on a Monday.
The meeting is adjourned, honorable members. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Chairperson.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson.
Yes. Thanks, Bele.
Go sleep, Honorable Maslat.
Chairperson.
Amanda.
Chairperson, I made a mistake.
Yes.
Sorry. Friday, the 19th.
The 19th.
Can you hear me, sir? Sorry, I made a mistake. Friday, the 19th. 19.
In the 19th meeting.
Okay.
But you don't
Ngabani
tell us the
ixesha,
time.
Amanda?
We will remind the members.
I will remind them and give
Please
them the
remind
time.
the members,
I think it will
Amanda.
be in the morning session because it's on a Friday.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Sabe sikhona.
okay then, please.
I will remind you, honorable members.
Members, good night, guys.
As it will be
Good
on the
night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
night.